How often should you train handstands? Is it okay to train handstands every day? And on days where you do train, how much handstand practice is optimal, productive, safe even? With many calisthenics skills, we can muscle through them until we become good enough to do them well. But with a skill like the handstand that is more mind than muscle, what should we do? The question of how many days per week should we train handstand has many facets to it, so today we'll be breaking it down to keep it simple so that as beginners, we not only progress with our handstand practice, but understand why certain elements of the handstand need to be trained in specific ways. But I have to make a couple of assumptions about us in this video. For now, I'm going to assume that this question is being asked by a handstand beginner, somebody looking to learn how to handstand, and we're also going to assume that we're talking about somebody looking to learn the kick to handstand as an entry, as other handstand entries require a more nuanced approach. With that in mind then, there are three things that we need to think about when it comes to handstand training frequency: strength, mobility, and skill. Let's start with the strength aspect first, and frankly, if you lack the strength to hold yourself up, then you won't be able to hold a handstand. There is no other way to flower up that message, and for that reason, if you do not have the strength to hold a handstand against the wall, this represents the biggest blocker to your ability to handstand, as no amount of kick-up attempts can overcome this hurdle. The good news though is that if strength is your biggest blocker to your handstand training, then the question of how often to train handstands becomes a little bit more simple to answer, because strength training in this context is simply a matter of volume management and progressive overload, working on building up our pushing ability over time while ensuring we are recovering well. For this reason, for the strength element of learning to handstand, I'd recommend training 2 to 3 times per week, and this can be as simple as using assisted dips and push-ups to build the global pushing strength needed to then be able to hold a handstand against a wall. But what I'll do is I'll also link down below to my free handstand strength program as well to help you get strong enough to do this. In terms of mobility, we need to up the ante. Handstands require us to have a good degree of shoulder flexion mobility, getting the hands up over our head without help from our lumbar spine. And to stress how important mobility is for us in our handstand, the more mobility that we have, the less we need to rely on our strength. And having mobile shoulders mean that we can better create this straight handstand. And to be clear, this goes beyond aesthetics, because a straight handstand means that we can stack our ankles over our knees, over our hips, over our shoulders, over our wrists, so we can rely on our skeletal structure to hold us up, and not just our muscles, which drains us of energy. This is why little kids who are naturally more mobile than adults can hold handstands for ages despite barely being able to perform a couple of push-ups. In terms of mobility training, we can see phenomenal benefits by holding passive stretches for as short as 5 minutes per week, and that's total stretch time. So in terms of how often to train the mobility aspects of handstands, we can simply perform a stretch that works on shoulder flexion for 1 minute, 5 days per week, or hold the same stretch for 90 seconds every other day. Personally, I find it very easy to squeeze a butcher's block hold in with my rest between sets to save time. Now, for the skill of hand balancing, we have to be really cognizant of exactly what we're doing. We are literally holding ourselves upside down on our hands, and once you have the strength and mobility to handstand, the skill of hand balancing really needs to be trained as close to daily as possible. Obviously, we'll need to put in some caveats around capacity. We're only as strong as our weakest link, and for many of us, that will be our wrists, at least initially. It's a lot of weight to start placing on such a small joint, so take it slow at first. Ligaments and tendons don't recover as quickly as muscles do. But as well as the wrist, be conscious of our elbows and shoulders, especially if your other non-handstand training is intense. Mastering the handstand is akin to learning to walk, and a baby would never learn to walk if they only tried 2 sets of walk attempts 3 times a week. But with daily training, it's very important to stay away from failure. Give your handstand attempts your best efforts, but don't get carried away. Okay, so we have all of this information now, but how to apply it? Well, the good news is that if you already train with a regular focus on bodyweight exercises, then you don't need to change that much, because we should already have the sort of exercises that we mentioned would aid in handstand strength. And we could simply start every training session with 10 to 15 minutes of handstand practice, where you have an emphasis on skill practice work to help you master the handstand. And you could throw in some handstand attempts sporadically throughout your day in a grease the groove method. But crowd, if you are looking for a comprehensive handstand program taking you from beginner to handstand beast, then check out my programs linked down below. And if you want to understand how handstands work, then check this video out right here.